Hello, hello again. Welcome back to another edition of the Wiccan Conservative. If you watched my last video, you may or may not know that the terms of service for YouTube are changing, and I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen to this channel in the future, but I figured I would go out with a bang and continue to express my opinions as I am well within my rights to do. So without further ado, I want to get started on a meme or a paragraph that's been making its way around the internet that I'm not exactly sure we have thought through entirely. So the meme is called "The War is Coming," and it pertains mostly to how the government has evolved over the years and how we are responding to the extension of government power as American citizens and our grievances with how they've handled things. And the meme starts out, and I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, so I'm going to read through it and I'm going to give you my interpretation of it. And feel free to agree with me, feel free to disagree with me, leave your comments below, regardless of how you feel. So the meme starts out with, this is quoting, you, the government, are sissies. You've raised the cost of living so high so that both parents are always at work rather than spending time with their children, and single parents stand no chance. Let me stop right there because I took a little bit of issue with just that first sentence, kind of turning around and blaming the government for rising cost of living and blaming both parents going to work and kind of really taking offense with how we are viewing our roles as citizens as opposed to what the government should be responsible for. So first thing I want to say is, the cost of living standards really rose due to the increase of technology and quality of life that we have. Through the ingenuity of the human race, we have rose our own cost of living to live a better quality life. We are living longer. We have more amenities to us than we ever had before. And the federal poverty rate is still doing better than, let's say, 30 years ago when you said you were in poverty. So I really don't believe that both parents have to work. I was a citizen of the state of Pennsylvania my entire life. I was born and raised there. I had both my children there. I did work. My husband did work. And we needed both incomes due to the lack of position that he and I both held at the time to sustain our lifestyle. So we decided that, if we wanted certain things for our families and we wanted to have certain amenities, we had cable, we had the internet, we had 2 cars, we had, gas in our house, we had electricity on, we had water, we had a little bit above the average means of society. So in order to accommodate that lifestyle, both of us had to work. Now that I'm here in the state of Georgia, I do not have to work. I'm a stay-at-home mom. My husband got a better position. He's in a higher paying job. He's in a better paying job. And that actually gave me the opportunity to sit here and record videos for you lovely folks. So I don't agree with the burden being put on the government that both parents have to work. I think that that's a personal choice, and it depends on what type of lifestyle that you want to lead. When people choose to have children and when they choose to have children really plays a big factor into that as well, saying that single parents stand no chance. My husband adopted my oldest daughter. I was a single parent. I did not have the things as a single parent that I have now as a married parent with 2 children now. But it still was something that I chose to do. So I chose to have children young. I chose to do it before I started a career. And I chose to do it at a time that probably most people wouldn't choose to have kids and to go down that path. But my child was my driving factor. I knew that I created this life and I needed to take care of her. So I did things that made my life better in order to make her life better. You need to look at what type of job you take. I started out as a waitress in a restaurant and I worked my way up into restaurant management. From restaurant management, I took the experience that I had and moved on to sales. So I changed my career path. I didn't have a degree. I'm sure I could have made more money if I did have a degree. I did go back to college when I was dating my husband early in our relationship. So I did attempt to go out and get a so-called degree. I ended up with just a certificate. So I'm partially college educated, and I took my GED. I dropped out of high school, and I have a partial college credit and GED. So does that play into how you're living your life? And is that something that is the government's fault, or are those personal choices that you've made along the way? And then to say that single parents have no chance, let's go back to that government, I guess, kind of babysitting mentality, whereas, single parents are granted a lot more opportunities than a married couple would have when it comes to benefits to go back to school or to receive, state appointed funding or, healthcare or those types of things. So my very first issue with, the government being sissies and raising the cost of living and forcing both parents to work, that's what really started this whole rant. As I started reading further into the text, it goes back. Let me go back to the meme, and it says you took God out of schools. Parents were told, quote, "No, you can't discipline your kids." Well, now our kids are buttholes. You shall reap what you sow, and we now have lost a whole generation and turned them into rude, selfish, disrespectful brats who have no respect for people, property, or authority. So I want to step back again and say, hi, I'm a Wiccan and I don't believe in one true God. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and I completely and utterly respect your religious beliefs. And I personally feel that religious sanctity or freedom is very independent to the individual. So if you're Jewish or you're Catholic or you're Christian or whatever denomination that you want to follow, that you're your own person, and whatever you believe is going to have a great influence on how you raise your children and how you behave in public. But I don't think that God has anything to do with behavior in the classroom. It is back to the religion taught at home, and that's what really has the impact here, is how you're teaching your children and what values you're teaching your children. All these different sects have a different perspective on how to serve their gods, how they feel they should act to please him. And if the children are lacking faith-based logic, I think that comes back to a parental responsibility, not a government responsibility, because the whole reason that we have religious liberty in this country is so that everybody can practice freely. So if you are forcing my child to worship your God, or I'm forcing your child to worship my gods, I don't think that honors the religious liberty that was intended when our founders framed the Constitution for this country. Now, again, yes, they were very religious based. They believed in a one true God, and they believed those things. And that's where most of these morals and laws and different types of things are based off of. But it doesn't need to be taught to our children in that way, shape, or form. I personally want to be able to teach my kids my religion and my beliefs. And, I'm more than welcome for them to learn about yours. And I want them to know about how you worship. And, my kids actually went to a Catholic school in Pennsylvania, because I felt that the public schools were lacking control and discipline. So I did send them to a Catholic school, but it was an everyday battle when they would come home from religious class and, ask me questions about our faith and how they should feel. And, again, it was a learning opportunity and a chance for me to have a real conversation with my children, not only exposing them to the viewpoints of others and how others live their lives, but it was another teaching opportunity in my household to our beliefs, to my beliefs. And right now the kids aren't, set on any type of religion. And I told them, kind of don't make a decision until you're old enough. They're 11 and 14. So they're not quite there yet. They're still learning. And I will be respectful of whatever they choose. If they choose to follow Wicca as I do, or if they choose to go be, in Catholicism or Christianity or Judaism or whatever they want to be. That's their entire choice. And I thought that was kind of the point of having religious liberty. It's free. We can choose that. So to put it on government and tell government that they have to start teaching this in school, it kind of irks me a little bit. Parents also need to realize that traditional corporate punishment is not illegal. We're talking about a day and age where kids are surrounded by people who will tell them what abuse is and how they should feel about abuse, and they know how to manipulate the system. We're treating them more and more like adults, but not giving them the time to grow into adulthood. So anytime that you discipline a child or, kind of smack them on the hands, and the child goes running and telling a teacher or telling a authoritarian figure that you're abusing them, is it just a lack of communication that you don't have a wrangle on your kids? Do they not understand the meanings of the words? Do they not understand the impact of what they're saying? And it comes back down to the parents' responsibility. You should be the ones really talking to your kids about what is appropriate punishment and what is not appropriate punishment. And obviously, the kids who are suffering through severe mental abuse, severe physical abuse, and severe neglect, they need to get the help that they deserve. They do not deserve to be in those households. No child deserves to feel like they are worthless or abused to the point where they are maimed, bruised, broken individuals. But to turn around and say that spanking is bad or you can't lay your hands on your kids is completely false. I mean, there's no laws against spanking your child, against disciplining your child. You just need to know where the lines are and be familiar with the law. Again, that's a personal responsibility issue, to know what the difference is, to be able to illustrate the difference and be able to defend your position when you're disciplining your child. And we go also into, I feel that a lot of these rules and laws and regulations and things are not government decisions. These are decisions that are being made by psychiatrists. They're being made by mommy and me clubs. They're being made by, different types of officials in your neighborhood who are judging you based upon the way that you're raising your child. I mean, especially, again, in today's day and age where if you smack your kid upside the head for not listening in the grocery store, there are other people that are getting involved and making accusations to the point where you might end up with a CPS worker on your doorstep. And I say this to everybody all the time. And the only way to combat those people is to know your rights and to have a clean house. So if you know that you've done nothing wrong and you're not excessive in your punishments and you're not excessive in your wording and you know you're not abusive, you parents know who you are, then there's nothing to fear from people coming to you. You can have these people at your doorstep, and as long as you know your rights and as long as you know that you have done nothing wrong, you have nothing to hide, kind of, it sucks, but go through the process, go through the motions and prove your innocence. And that's the whole due process part of our government, where you have the assumption of innocence until they bring up proof. And a child's word is not proof. I hate to say this, that we are putting too much adult responsibility onto these children, and they're not fully formed adults yet. Their brains cannot understand concepts the way adults can understand concepts. So what you really need to do is, again, take personal responsibility for your actions and understand what is and isn't allowed in your state, your local area. And if these people do happen to show up on your doorstep, be prepared, do your homework, know what your rights are, and shut it down before it even gets that far. So, we move on with, the next part of the meme here. It says, you deemed people with terminal illnesses fit for work. You allow our veterans of war to go homeless or hungry, but you give out millions to foreign aid. First, I don't know where the terminal illness comes from. I don't know too many people who have a terminal illness that are deemed fit for work unless they want to be at work. And, if you shouldn't be working, depending upon your personal situation, I think that's again, a very personal issue. I don't think that you can turn that around onto government. I don't think that anybody has been forced to work, I guess, unless you want to count slaves. And, obviously we've abolished slavery. So I don't know who's been deemed. And if you could answer that, that'd be great, because that one just kind of right over my head there. But, when we go into veterans of war go homeless or hungry, I have a hard time getting on the all homeless people are downtrodden and down on their luck and are victims of circumstance. I have a really hard time because, we had a homeless issue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I've seen lots of homeless people up there. Down here in Georgia, there is a lot of homeless as well. And talking to some of these people, I actually follow a YouTube channel called The Invisible People, where, they do highlight a lot of people who have come across some hard times. But, a lot of these people choose to live this lifestyle. They don't want to be part of the rat race of humanity. They don't want to participate in paying taxes. They don't want to participate in going to work every day, or they're on drugs and they're spending their money on drugs. So, when we talk about homeless people and veterans being homeless, is it a personal choice? Do they put themselves into these situations? Or has somebody come out and told them, you can't live in this household and you can't live in that household and you can't be here and you can't be there? When we go to veterans in general, we have veteran programs. There's plenty of different types of stimulation packages and parts of our budget and our federal dollars that are going to give care and fund to these people. And you may not like the care that you're offered. You may not be able to take advantage of all the programs. And I do believe that we should get a little bit more funding for the veterans coming home from wars. But in the same respect, there's a lot of these people who choose not to take advantage of the tax dollars that we're using to give to these people. And I would like to see a little bit more personal responsibility on everybody's level. If you were a little bit more charitable in your neighborhoods, or kind of got some type of organization together where you're helping these people. And I don't mean go out and, give these people food or give them money, or create little, I know the big thing is to put the storage containers and make homes for them. The best way that you can help somebody is to teach them how to help themselves. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that leaves their life in their own hands. So if you, and again, to kind of make this a funny situation, to quote the Bible, if you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. That's one thing that does resonate with me. And I do believe that, again, if you take a homeless man or woman into your house, clean them up, give them a hot meal, give them a fresh suit, some sort of, pep talk, take them down, get them a job interview, kind of work with them. I mean, if you even feel comfortable enough to let them use your address as a temporary address, or teach them how to get a PO box so that they can, receive mail, or something to that effect. I think that would go a lot further than creating a soup kitchen where they can all come and eat, or creating a space for them to live out of storage containers. Because, again, you can give the people that really need the help these areas and these facilities, and they might take care of them. And it might seem like a great idea, but eventually, if they're not upkeeping that area and they're not taking care of those things on their own, then it's not going to last anyways. And everything that you just did was a waste. And I hate to say it that way. I'm not really a pessimistic person, but that's the truth of the matter. So if they can't take care of their own lives, why would they take care of something that you gave to them? Because in their minds, then, somebody will just come along and give them something else regardless. So, I feel that it's much more beneficial if you take these people into your home, if that's what you truly want to do, and to help others, is to teach them how to help themselves. Charity is one thing, and I believe the wrong reasons in which they just want to bolster their own reputations, but I digress. The meme continues on to say, you freely save drug addicts over and over again, but refuse to give free diabetic supplies to citizens who need help and did not choose to try diabetes. I have an issue there. I understand the concept of what you're trying to say, where Narcan is being administered to people who continue to overdose at an exponentially large rate, as opposed to being with a diabetic person who doesn't have the means to fund their own disease. I get it. But to be honest with you, if you think about the money situation behind funding all the people with diabetes who require insulin on a daily basis, as opposed to the amount of money we're spending on Narcan for drug addicts, the price point doesn't add up. It doesn't even make sense to make that comparison, because you're comparing apples and oranges. Now, I'm not a big favor of giving anybody free healthcare or free, medical anything. I just don't believe in that anything in this world is free. But how do you make that comparison when dollars to donuts, the two things that you're comparing, one is not like the other? There's obviously a bunch of more people who will need to consume more insulin than there will ever be Narcan administered in this country. So your heart is in the right place, but the words that are coming out of your mouth don't make sense. last chunk of my rant here. The meme says that you bend over backwards to be politically correct, too scared to say enough is enough in case you offend. Isn't America in charge of their representatives? I mean, vote them out if they're not your voice. So if you're saying that these representatives are not saying what you would want them to say, get out and vote. That's all I can tell you. It says that you've robbed Social Security of so many funds, you've had to raise the retirement age because you can't afford for us to retire when it's time, so people need to work until they drop. So this is the worst point in the entire rant, in my opinion. We are on the verge of moving into a socialistic society, and Social Security couldn't get any more socialistic if you tried. So Social Security was set up to kind of take care of the working generation past their working days. And the whole point of the system was you and me as able-bodied citizens who go to work every day pay into a fund to support those who are not working right now. It was never set up as like a bank account or a savings account for you. You were constantly waiting for the next generation to help take care of you. So since we've kind of created this workforce that doesn't work, that doesn't want to go to work, and is taking lesser positions in the workforce. I mean, they're going out into entry-level positions. They're staying in entry-level positions longer. And those are the people that actually just go out and go to work. You're not even talking about the past 8 years where unemployment was at an all-time high. So how do you exactly expect the younger generations to take care of the now retiring generations on a program that was set up for them to, kind of feed off of each other? It's a socialistic program. Everybody's supposed to work together and get all this stuff, and we'll take care of you, you take care of us, and then those will take care of another person. Your best bet, and this is in life, and this is whenever you go to your job, to whatever, you need to be personally responsible. Get your own 401k together. You can have an employer supplemented program and hope that there's that money in Social Security for you. But there's no guarantee for it. And especially my generation and the generations coming after me, there's less and less money. And they did misuse the funds. We know that they misused the funds. We knew that they were paying salaries for people who hadn't, worked. We knew that they were paying salaries to people who had never worked. It's not a program that was set up to hold money for you into your retirement. And even my own parents, I've kind of tried to explain this point to them, because they're very outraged by the dwindling Social Security and the raising of the retirement age. But I told them, again, you had the opportunity to properly prepare for your own retirement your entire life. And unfortunately, you made decisions that you are not properly prepared. And you're going to reap the consequences of it. It's not something that was guaranteed to you. And yeah, I hear it all the time. We were forced to pay it. We were forced to pay into it. And I hear you. Trust me, I hear you. But at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to know what's going on, not only in your own household and with your own personal finances, but you have to be well aware of what's going on in your government. And I think that's one of the main issues with this war meme. And I won't even finish it off because this just irritates me so badly. But again, when do we take responsibility for ourselves? We've now thrust so much onto the government that we're going to go to war with the government because we refuse to take responsibility for ourselves. I believe that there is a war coming. I believe that we do have to be aware of what's happening, but we can't sit here and say that we didn't cause this. We can't sit here and say that we weren't active participants in the game that we now have to play, in the hoops that we now have to jump through, and the people that we now have to hold accountable for the state of our union. So I ask you guys, think about what you say before you say it, and try to kind of break down the thought process, and what are we really asking the government for? Do we want them to take care of us? Do we want them to be in charge of our every move? Do we want them to be the omnipotent driving force behind our lifestyles and how we live them? Or are we going to take back our country and decide, you know what? I'm responsible for me. It's my choice how my future goes, and I'm going to work hard to achieve the goals and the future that I want to achieve. So this is one of my two-part videos. I'll do another video after this one and get them both posted today, and hopefully I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.